On this episode of Travelogue, we explore the wonders of TENGCHONG, a charming Chinese town bordering Myanmar, appreciate Mother Nature at her best, and go up on a hot air balloon to admire the beauty of her famous volcanoes. Drink straight from the source and savor the mineral-rich water in TENGCHONG, or stumble upon hot springs and geysers throughout the park.
I've heard many times that you can come to Yunnan hundreds of times and still be in love with it, still want to visit. It's my first trip here, but instead of going to Lijiang and Kunming, the more popular cities, I decided to visit TENGCHONG, a charming small town with its own flavor. Welcome to Travelogue. I'm Charlene.
TENGCHONG is a Chinese town that borders Myanmar. It's located in the Baoshan prefecture in western Yunnan. 400 years ago, Xi Xiaoke, a famous Ming Dynasty scholar and traveler, described TENGCHONG as the furthest border city in China. What he meant was that it was the furthest city from the capital. Nowadays, by contrast, TENGCHONG is easily accessible from Beijing and the rest of China. And with the newly opened airport, it's only a 45-minute plane ride from Kunming, the provincial capital of Yunnan. There's an old saying here in TENGCHONG: for every 10 mountains, there are 9 with no head. It's a reference to the ratio of volcanoes to mountains here. There are 97 volcanoes in the area. They, along with its wetlands, active geothermal fields, and volcanic lakes, make TENGCHONG one of the most visited locations by geologists, seismologists, and other scientists in China.
TENGCHONG is famous for its volcanoes, so it has to be my first stop. If you want a better view of the surrounding landscape, you can come to Huashan and go up on a hot air balloon between 8 and 10:30 every morning, but only if the weather is good. So it's real soon. I'm gonna go up.
The volcanoes here are incredibly valuable for research by scientists. But for ordinary folk like you and me, it's a place you can come to ooh and ah over the glories of nature. The volcanoes have been dormant for years. In fact, the last volcanic eruption occurred during the Ming Dynasty about 400 years ago. All the seismic activity is a result of TENGCHONG's location between the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates, where movements of the Earth's crust cause frequent earthquakes, and in the past, volcanic eruptions. In China, TENGCHONG takes the cake when it comes to the variety, size, preservation, and clustering of its volcanoes. Not bad considering it's one of the youngest volcanic areas in all of China. It's so beautiful. From here you can see about 5 volcanoes. The guy said that in the surrounding area alone, you'll see 5 volcano craters, and that one there is the largest. Tourists are allowed to climb to the top of every mountain here, legs willing. And while some attempt the more ambitious climb up the larger volcanoes to get a view of the craters, I've decided that a smaller crater, about 60 meters deep, is more suitable given the heat. If you have something to say to the world, or if you just want to mark your territory, you can go to like one of the craters and use stones to place messages inside. I think there are a couple of people doing it down there. If you come to a place like this, you want people to know that you've been here. And while pictures and home videos might be enough for some, I decided to join the rest of the people leaving their mark. Don't underestimate the weight of those rocks. It was too difficult to build TRAVELOGUE, so I opted for CCTV 9 instead, as a way of telling the world we were here. My arms may have gotten pretty sore, but it was well worth it. I didn't want to touch another rock for a while, but I was more than happy to take a pleasant stroll through the area of Ⅰ River to look at a special rock formation produced by the volcanic activity in the area. Some of this rock is lacquered and sold as household decorations around TENGCHONG. Now, you might not be able to move mountains, but you can own a piece of one, if that's your thing, although I much prefer to look at it in its natural state. Thanks to the volcanoes, the water in TENGCHONG is rich in minerals. You'll often see locals using and drinking water straight from the source. There is not much need for any filtration when the water is this clean. Apparently, there are some 30 different minerals in the water here, and the locals believe that drinking it will help cure their various ailments.
I'm starting to feel the heat from here. It's really hot. I now know what a steamed chicken feels like. Oh man, you have to see this.
TENGCHONG has one of the greatest concentrations of geothermal resources in China. In fact, it's second only to Yangbajing in the Tibet Autonomous Region. There are more than 100 hot springs in the area, of varying sizes, appearances, and temperatures. It's said that every village here has its own hot spring. Ruihai is known to have the highest concentration of hot springs in TENGCHONG, about 20 large ones, and many more smaller ones. The largest and most famous of Ruihai's hot springs is the Big Boiling Pot, which reaches temperatures of 96 degrees Celsius above the ground and 102 degrees below it. It's not the sort of hot spring you'd want to bathe in, though. The locals here make full use of their natural resources. Right beside the Big Boiling Pot, you'll find a cafe of sorts, where you can sample a variety of snacks, such as hard-boiled eggs of the chicken and quail variety, peanuts, and baby potatoes. It takes 5 or 6 minutes to steam a row of eggs wrapped in a special straw cocoon, the like of which you won't find anywhere else in China. Now, I've eaten my fair share of boiled eggs, and I have to tell you, these are the best ever. According to the locals, it's the minerals in the water that give the eggs their extra kick. Aside from the famous Big Boiling Pot, you'll find many more hot springs and geysers throughout the park. However, temperature-wise, none of them is a match for the Big Pot, with temperatures averaging between 60 and 80 degrees Celsius. While it's pleasant to walk through the park, be prepared for the heat rising from the water. My guide told me that the amount of heat given off by the hot springs in this area annually is equivalent to what would be produced by 20,000 tons of coal. I recommend you pay special attention to the names of the hot springs, most of which are well-earned and quite charming. Well, if you can call a 10,000-year-old hot spring charming. Some of my favorites are the Frogmouth Geyser, where you'll see a collection of cone-shaped rock formations sprouting water, along with the drum-beating spring, but no prizes for guessing what that sounds like. If you prefer more privacy, there are hotels in the area that cater to those seeking a more personal experience or a longer therapeutic retreat. In this hotel, there are 18 rooms that offer in-room hot spring baths, indoor and outdoor, with water piped straight from the mountains. This is a really nice room. If you're looking to splurge a little, or, if you're on your honeymoon, I recommend this place. You can enjoy some spa treatments, dip yourself in the hot spring, and you don't even have to go very far because right outside, just a couple of steps away, is your private hot spring bath. If you're looking for a more cost-effective option or you don't have the time to stay in Rahai, the hotel also has a day spa facility. Along with the usual massages and facial treatments, the spa offers 16 public hot springs. For the price of ticket admission, you can spend all day trying out the different hot spring baths. Each bath has different health benefits. Some also include scents from essential oils, such as lavender for relaxation. People here certainly know how to live life. Actually, China was one of the first countries where the health benefits of a hot spring bath were discovered. That was over 5,000 years ago.
Tengchong is really famous for its jade because it's really close to Myanmar, and you'll find many shops in town that sell it here. But if you're like me and you don't know anything about it, it's kind of helpful to go to a museum first, find out a little bit more, and don't tell anybody, but this area here is also one of the places that you can buy jade at its cheapest. 你好，谢谢。
The jadeite in China came from Myanmar. TENGCHONG, as the last stop on the southwestern Silk Road and the nearest Chinese town to the Myanmar border, became the natural marketplace for jadeite. Horse-drawn carriages would bring the raw jade rocks from Myanmar to TENGCHONG to be carved and sold. The town is now the #1 producer of Chinese jade in the world. It's also the largest marketplace and carving center for jadeite from Myanmar in China. It's believed that wearing jade removes all toxins from the body and protects the wearer from bad luck and misfortune. Moreover, jade has been the muse inspiring many artists and scholars throughout Chinese history. The famous philosopher Confucius even likened the qualities of the stone to the human virtues of intelligence, truth, loyalty, justice, purity, and humanity. Ultimately, jade symbolized the ideal, noble, and superior man.
Do you see this thing? It's over 60 years old, and they use this to basically buffer the jade and make it all shiny. I don't know how it works. 怎么样泡挂吗？再放 like 如果有一个这样。
哎，对对对，一般都是那样磨，然后呢就这个呢一般都是抛手镯的。
You'll also be able to see modern carving techniques here. In the past, it would take hours to cut open a piece of rough jade, so merchants and traders would negotiate a price for an uncut stone by observing the quality of the jade through a small window scraped off the oxidized opaque skin without knowing the true quality of the whole piece of jade they were buying. I was told that while the worth of gold can be measured by weight and market price, there is no standardized method for determining the value of jade. There is a rating system that ranks jade on a scale from A for exceptional to E for acceptable based on tone, texture, translucency, and color. But it's not widely recognized. The best price determinant is your perception of a stone's beauty and how much you're willing to pay. When it comes to jade, so it's said, you don't choose the piece, it chooses you.
Oh, okay. See, once you've gone to the museum and learned a bit about jade and decided that, well, you want to buy something, you can come to the shop and they'll teach you, what piece to buy, what's so good about it. This, for example, the guys told me is really valuable because it's got clouds and it's got different shades of green, so there's variance in it, which makes it really, really pricey. I've worked up quite the appetite shopping, and the girls at the store told me that right across the road, a few steps away, is a restaurant that serves local cuisine. And the great thing about it is that every night at 8 p.m., you'll be able to see a local puppet show with puppets that are made out of pigskin. That's pretty cool, so I'm going to go and check it out. That's where the shadow puppet performance is going to take place later at 8, down there.
The shadow play is a feature of various cultures around the world, such as the wayang kulit in Malaysia and Karagöz and Hasavat in Turkey. In China, the shadow play is a traditional art form that dates back to the Han Dynasty over 2,000 years ago. In China, the shadow play is said to have originated after one of Emperor Wu's favorite concubines passed away from illness. The emperor was so distraught that he ordered his officials to bring her back to life. The poor officials, faced with the prospect of losing their heads if they failed in this impossible task, came up with an ingenious plan. They made a puppet of the concubine using donkey hide. To this day, there are many places in China where shadow plays are performed, although there are distinct regional variations. In some areas, the shadow play revolves around singing local folk songs. But here in TENGCHONG, the puppets are used to tell stories. It's a form of entertainment that remains very popular among the locals, even when their TV sets are calling out to them.
师傅，还有几个人在你村子能做这个的，还有能表演这样的？
能做的在50多人，能表演的只有30多人了。
哇！
以前呢传男不传女，现在呢我们这老艺人刘永洲，我是他的搭档，叫刘定徐。那么还有我的那个侄子。我们这里组织呢已经有好多5位女同志、小女孩，他们都来跟着表演了。
哦。
在寨子里边。
但是现在年轻人还喜欢这样的吗？
喜欢。
还是喜欢。
除了演老的，我们还改革了新的。所以年轻人演这个大本头就难演，演历史故事很困难。要敲打，要拉琴，要唱，
挺多东西的。
那么打斗的时候不唱，要一般的文戏才唱。
哦，唱一个吧，你唱一个吧，给我听一下。
老艺人唱一个。万里花真稀，老艺人操一个，小酒也最动听。又是女腔。
女的。
女的。
我做了。
你把上倒了，成了倒油先。
I flipped the head the wrong way.
If you want to find out how the shadow puppets are made, you need to take a 30-minute drive from the town center to a village called Liujiajai. The journey there gives you the chance to take in some magnificent scenery. I'd heard that TENGCHONG is a beautiful place, but having traveled to places with some of the most spectacular landscapes in the world, including Bali and New Zealand, I never expected TENGCHONG to floor me. But driving past the rice paddy fields mirroring the sky, that's exactly what happened. Unlike the shadow puppets in other parts of China, the TENGCHONG variety are made from horse skin rather than the usual donkey hide. Each limb is traced onto a piece of leather before being cut out by hand. The puppet is then painted according to its character in many different, bright and vibrant colors. Like most traditional arts in China, shadow puppets and shadow plays are a dying art form. Not many people are able to make the puppets or perform the plays these days. Still, the elders continue to train and teach the young to perform, integrating modern stories in the hope of keeping the old tradition alive. While most of the people who live in TENGCHONG are ethnic Han, the town is located within a region with many ethnic minorities, and the puppets here represent both groups. I overheard some tourists saying that they'd seen shadow puppets in many parts of China, but the ones here were the most beautiful and intricate. In a small village not far from Liujiajai in TENGCHONG, you'll find another traditional art in the form of a household item. While most prefer the plastic form these days to keep off the rain or summer heat, a traditional paper umbrella is an art form. Originally from the Fujian province, collapsible umbrellas were used in China long before they were introduced in the West during the mid-17th century. The earliest reference to umbrellas in China dates from some 2,400 years ago, when their use was confined to the imperial family and high officials on ceremonial occasions. Paper umbrellas are made in several regions of China, but they all differ. Here in TENGCHONG, the frames are made from bamboo and covered with oiled paper, and then decorated in a rustic and natural style. This makes them quite different from the silk versions in the south, which are decorated with delicate paintings of flowers and nature. In the past, handmade paper umbrellas were in common use throughout China, and every household in this village produced them. Nowadays, it's a dying art, and fewer than 10 families in the village still make them. This artist tells me that he's now 80 years old and has been making paper umbrellas since he was 9. In an effort to keep the art alive and carry on the tradition, he's taught his son to make them, even though they are no longer very popular. Most of the umbrellas are now sold as souvenirs or movie props for period films. It's still a treasured piece of China's history, so if you come across one on your travels, buy it and take it home. It's not just a decorative item. The ribs of these umbrellas are made from bamboo that is more than 5 years old, so they'll probably last longer than your average TENGCHONG shop-bought variety. I couldn't help myself and bought a few. Now, I'm just waiting for a rainy day. What do you reckon? It was well worth coming to this little village, even though it's raining outside. I mean, how often do you get to buy a paper umbrella? When you get to the Beihai wetlands, you can either walk on the elevated platforms or you can take a boat around the marshes, which is great because then you'll be closer to nature and you'll get a better look at the ecology here. The Beihai wetlands lie 12.5 kilometers northwest of TENGCHONG. Covering an area of 10,000 square kilometers, they embrace a complex ecosystem and great biological diversity. The Beihai wetlands are a major ecotourism destination for those visiting TENGCHONG. As one of 33 key national wetland areas in China, they are the only state-level protected wetland in Yunnan province. Photographers flock to the Beihai wetlands in every season to capture the magnificence of the surroundings. They're also a research center that attracts environmental scientists from all over the world. So now I'm going to show you the incredible feat of walking on water. Whoa! Squidgy! It's kind of cool! Ooh, it's cold. Never having visited a marsh, I was surprised to learn that you can stand on tufts of grass that appear to be floating on the water. The grass is about 10 meters high and is so dense that a patch this big can bear the weight of at least 10 people. Now, if the novelty of feeling like you're walking on water isn't stimulating enough, there's always something to see here, no matter which season you visit. If you come in spring around March and April like we did, you'll see fields of purple fleur-de-lis. You know, when you live in a city, you tend to think that you're bigger than everybody else, that you're pretty much invincible and, you know, you're the man about town. But coming here, I feel so insignificant because I'm surrounded by these ginormous mountains, and it feels like a reality check. Like I'm just this one
little being in this massive world.
TENGCHONG is a small place. There's no doubt about that. But while in many bigger towns and cities, you're constantly battling hordes of tourists, I had a great time enjoying the many sights and activities this town has to offer without the long queues. The volcanoes are overwhelming, the marshlands are inspiring, and it's not every day that you get to see such beautiful works of jade and shadow puppets. I'll be continuing my journey in TENGCHONG in the next episode with a visit to Heshun village. It's a place that most people won't have heard of, but one that they'll want to visit if only they knew. Keep your bags packed till then. Thanks for watching Travelogue.